right, calm down. You bunch of hellraisers coming and hanging out over here watching all this artwork, all this white positive, subversive artwork. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, I tell you. So, what's going on there, lads? I was just watching the Uber Boyo talking about Nietzsche and the Christian question. Thought it was quite interesting actually, but can't get that Irish accent out of my mind now. You know, there's a certain way of talking. You know, that's the way that I do it over there. Certain Irish brogue. Uber Boyo is quite a bright young man. He's got a great future ahead of him, I'll tell you that. Really enjoy his content. Definitely look him up if you can. I'm certainly not trying to make fun of the Irish accent, me being Irish myself. No, that'd be a travesty. Can't say that I really practice the, what you call it there, the St. Patrick's Day. I don't feel that it's authentic, really. Or I'll stop. That's getting annoying. But yeah, I don't know. I've always felt like St. Patrick's Day is this very commercial kind of thing. That's sort of sad. I mean, I'm Irish. I should be like, yeah, let's get drunk on green beer, man. It's Irish heritage. Look, I'm wearing shamrocks. I know for sure that a lot of Irish in my town where I live are extremely proud people and very, very, what's the word? Sincere about, their culture, and that's the way it's supposed to be. That's a good thing. Um, there's an Irish center not far from me, actually. I'm always like, I should go over there. Do you do that? Do you have like places near where you live that are really great and cool and they've been around for a long time and people go there and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna get over there one of these days. It's almost as if because it's convenient you don't do it, thinking, well, I can do that anytime, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but be real honest with you, I'm not actually a huge fan of Irish folk music. I like some of it. I think it depends on how it's performed. There is a girl that I follow on YouTube, Lady Full Moon. Her name is slipping my mind right now. I apologize. She's out in the Denver area, and she is a singer songwriter, but she does a lot of cover songs of classical Irish. Should I say classical? Well, yeah. So a lot of these songs are definitely classical in and that they're well known in Ireland, etc., in that culture. She's Irish American, and but the thing about her is that she is truly angelic. Like she's from another world. She's got something about her that is just, I fell in love with her immediately when I saw her. I was like, I was like, oh my god, and a lot of that was actually her music, was the way that she sings. It's sort of hauntingly beautiful. Um, I'm really, really sensitive to, I don't know what to call it. It's essentially like femininity, and when women have a lot of it and it's very natural, I find it like intoxicating. I'm very, very, I get really moved by that. Of course, it's just nature's forces at play. But yeah, it's a way to break your own heart there, Donald. Donny me boy, oh, I anyway, yeah. Lady Moon. Oh, geez, I feel really bad that I'm not getting it quite right. It's if you were to just search that on YouTube, I guarantee you she'd pop up, and you would see some. It's just a very very pretty. She's not like supermodel pretty. It's not that kind of beauty. Just a classical Irish beauty. It's a very thin girl. Um, very kind of fragile looking, actually. Um, every time I sit down for my thing, my show, I always can't find one effing thing that I gotta have. And okay, I apologize. Hold on. And there you go. So, um, yeah, she converted me. She was showing me like all this great Irish music that it's her though, it's her voice, her energy. Oh, wow. Be still my beating heart. Good lord. um let's see if anybody's here or I'm just making a complete ass of myself in the silence here. Hold on, we got Crusader 21. This is the man, ladies and gentlemen. If you have not met Crusader 21, you don't know what you're in for. That's the man right there. Thanks for coming, buddy. So I've been making some headway on Pages, another really fun action sequence here. In this, so if you, anybody who knows the story so far has been following my shows, um, there is it's basically Conservative Incorporated is sponsoring this MAGA superhero team, MAGA Force, and they're having a rally. And this is kind of the producer in the television studio saying, camera one, camera two, zoom in, camera three, play tape four, pan left, the kind of stuff that you would say and do in a TV production room. So this has some kind of fun action shots. Oh, excuse me. That'll be a nice page to do. What's kind of funny about a lot of these is all the empty space in here. Well, that's because he's talking, and you got to have a place to put. So like he makes little jokes, so you got to have your little word balloon spaces. He'll be saying something in this giant space here. He's going to be talking kind of like across, like so, and then it'll kind of come down into here. And it's just the flow of words and pictures, words and pictures, words and pictures, and your eye kind of rolls and cascades in and out and through and over the page, and it should be a really enjoyable experience. There's obviously this kind of a layout. We've got that circle and then these kind of sunbeam, splitting the panels up and so that it flows downward in a curve and then sort of flips that over and does the same design in the opposite. It's meant to be very dynamic. It's meant to be exciting and cool. It's I guess kind of eye candy. Um, yeah, I was talking about comics on, I think, my last stream. I almost said scream. Anyway, and oh yeah, I was looking at the Blueberry Western cowboy comic and saying like I've never even read this, you know. And I think like writers would be angry to hear that, but I am an artist, and these are my reference materials. You know what I'm saying? I read some of it, but it's not like a book where you kind of sit down and you know chunk away at it. Um, of course, the art tells the story to an extent. You're not getting dialogue and the real story, but um, I don't know. To me, comics should be satisfying visually alone, and then like the story is like a bonus. And there's, I don't know. I know that I would assume that most of my followers are not comics fans, so I don't like fault you for that or whatever. But um, there's nothing like finding like a really good series or a really good graphic novel and just like laying down on the living room rug or laying down on your bed or something and just going in there and like just completely immersing yourself in that world. And it's just such a satisfying feeling. Now with film, things happen and happen and happen in a in a sort of realistic way. The scene gets cut, the shot gets cut, etc., etc., and you just have to keep up with the flow of things. But as soon as there's a cut, then you're on to the next image, and you're piecing together more information. Um, Whereas with comics, you have a choice of lingering, of returning, and going back. Of course, you can rewind, I don't know, a DVD or something like this, but or a YouTube video or something. But I don't know, it's just not quite the same. Still images have a certain value to them. That's really nice. Um, what I'm trying to do with this page is add some blacks to give it a little weight. Uh, let's make it slightly heavier. The black shadows tend to nail it down a bit. Um, let's see if there's any comments quite yet. With just my buddy saying hello. All right, so yeah, I do feel like I need another ink resource though. Let's see. So Crusader, how's the music? Is it like just right? Okay. I'm feeling like it's probably just right in the right spot. Like not too loud or whatever, you know. Okay. So if I put black around here, then I lose that. So it's like poking him in the eye like that. I'll kind of lose that effect if I darken the background. Choices. You always got choices. So I suppose what I could do would be something kind of unique. Where, say, I could kind of delineate or chop up the panel. Now, there's another kind of comic book graphic device that I use. That's when I'm doing, say, a black background like this. I don't bring the black right up to the figure, but I leave a very, very thin white outline around them. And I don't know when I first noticed this technique. I'd say like in on the Avengers in like the I don't know, mid to late 2000s or something. Um, and it just kind of punctuates the figure in a certain way, and then like having like the black ink right up against them. It's not that that doesn't work or whatever, but it muddles it a little bit, and to some extent. Whereas having this very thin white outline almost gives it like a sense of vibration or something. Um, I suppose part of the joy of comics is just the love of graphic art. Um, it's got its own feeling, and then of course there's all these crazy, amazing artists out there that have like phenomenal styles and really, really cool sequences, action scenes, special effects. That's one of the interesting things about comics is the use of special effects. Um, this he's being shot at, so you see like these little kind of bullet piercing marks in the background. For example. There's a bazillion of these different types of effects that you can get. So, chitty chatty. The Uber Boyo video is still on my mind. I didn't get through the whole thing, but he was making a statement about how religion, I guess without getting into all the details, that religion is an important coping mechanism for the suffering of life. And whereas, like, Uber Boyle specializes in Friedrich Nietzsche. That's his gig. And because he's essentially saying that Nietzsche tried to kind of see truth and take truth, accept truth in its most pure, unadulterated form. And it supposedly almost drove him mad, And he criticized Buddhism as being nihilistic. And so, like, I obviously have I wouldn't even remotely dare to try to critique Nietzsche. I'm not on that playing field. But being a German who maybe studied Buddhism from books and never practiced it, I don't respect his comments on Buddhism. Those are his conclusions, and I know that there's certain factions in like the right wing that are like, Buddhism is degenerate or nihilistic. It's not degenerate. It's the opposite of degenerate. It's far, far, far more extreme in terms of asceticism than any version of Christianity. So like it's far from degenerate in any way. I think what I would agree with, though, is that it's, in the case of white genocide and trying to survive global homo and all the hell that's coming, we really, in a sense, have to be preparing for war, not for the monastery. If we, and this is where I always bring up my experience when I was a student at Shaolin Temple. So again, most people should know or might know that Shaolin Kung Fu is like the it's like the Oxford of martial arts or the Harvard of martial arts. It's considered the highest school in Chinese Buddhism. Now, is it or is it not? I'm not gonna go down those roads. Just formally speaking, you could say that. Um, Shaolin is perhaps even kind of it's definitely the birthplace of what we know as Zen Buddhism. That's a whole other history. But the point I'm trying to get to here is I asked the monk at some point, here I am learning Kung Fu and Buddhism. And I'm saying, you're teaching us nonviolence and, you know, all this stuff, peace of mind and overcome your angers, your passions, whatever. And then you're teaching us how to kill people. So like, how do these things work? Like, don't you see the contradiction? And, without pausing a moment, he said that if the Shaolin monks did not learn martial arts and fight uh, you know, innumerable battles, in the history of China, then the teachings of the Buddha would have been lost in China. And the fact is that Islam destroyed the teachings of Buddha in everywhere in Asia where there is Islam. And I know that everybody's like, well, what's the big whoop? Like, why does that? It's not us, that's an Asian thing. And I always try to get to the point of like, there's value in learning meditation. I don't think that it has to be Buddhist, but I think that we should be meditating or doing something spiritual to fortify ourselves, to balance ourselves, to invigorate ourselves for the fight to come. I did a little hashtag campaign on Twitter today where I did hashtag whites will win with capitals. And then I included really nice vaporwave, fast wave art, like all kinds of cool artwork stuff. A lot of like sort of wave guy things. I put something by Jayla Dark in there, and just some memes and stuff. And I noticed. I mean, I put a ton of them out there too, and I noticed that the ones that got likes seem to be slightly more on the. They're not negative. I didn't put any real hardcore negative ones on there, but they're the more like kind of people seem to respond more to the black pill type of. How am I saying this? Okay, so like some of the memes had this kind of like Deus Vult, we're gearing up for war, that kind of sentiment, which we're all familiar with in our meme world. And nobody really seemed to jive with the more positive statements. And then that kind of demonstrated to me like we're sort of a little bit in a negative mindset. A little bit, maybe a lot more than a little. Am I making sense? Does this kind of make sense? There's a certain obviousness to the fact that of course we're negative. We're surrounded with toxicity. People want us dead. We're being brutalized. The government is taken over by tyrants. They're flooding our. I mean, blah, 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 all that shit, right? But it's those very reasons that we have to, in my view, learn how to be kind of more positive in the way that is healthy. for us, um, you know, even soldiers have to, run miles and do sit-ups and push-ups and blah blah blah. So I kind of feel like mentally we could or should be doing these things as well. Yeah. So like the Whites Will Win meme or not meme campaign, but hashtag campaign. I feel like, get out there and share, share, share. Um, I feel like I say it all the time. At the very least, people should be sharing stuff as much as possible. I don't know. I don't feel like it's enough to just know what's going on. Like, you need to be involved in some way. I do think I like this idea that the Whites Will Win hashtag. That's quite good. There's certain something to, oh, I don't know, linguistic dialectical magic, if you will, like the idea that you've got to put the idea out there and you've got to repeat it, and you've got to make it real. You know what I'm saying? People have to kind of partake in the manifestation, frankly, of our victory, and that's you have to kind of verbalize it. I feel like that's pretty critical. Even I think psychologists would tell you the same thing. See if there's any comments here. Who else has joined us? We've got Jay Lewis. Yeah, man, we are all doomers. Haha. Yeah, that's my concern. It seemed like, I don't know, in the past 2 years, maybe, it seems to me that things have slowed down. Like, there doesn't seem to be as much action. Some years ago, I mean, you had all kinds of action, there were some sort of bigger names out there, cruising around at different universities and doing events, shows, whatever, talks, debates, and then it just all seems to be kind of drying up. And that's not obviously totally true. There's other people doing stuff, but I have to say I'm a little, I don't know, I'm sort of like, it feels like on the one hand a lot of people are kind of going inward. I know a lot of artists that are just focusing on their work now. It seemed like there was a period of time when we all needed to kind of confirm our ideas together and build community and have a sense of what's going on, based on the different, what do you call them, content developers and their shows, and everybody's kind of in their own camps with the Groypers and the this and the that, Um, I don't know. Just am I right, or what's your guys' take? Do you feel like things have kind of slowed down in the DR? Like, what's the scoop, Betty Boop? What's the lowdown, Brown? What's going on? All right, I'm gonna give you a minute to think about that, and then I will check the chats. Um, and then once in a while, like like a Kanye will come along or something will happen, and that'll kind of juice us up again and get us excited. Um, I think the Scott Adams thing, Dilbert guy, that was sort of like the most recent one, you know. All right, let's see if there's any comments. Just doomers. mm, so something happened today across the street from where I live. There is my neighbor had their tree cut down, and I got really upset about it. Now I'm not like a sort of a tree hugging hippie or something, blah blah blah, this kind of thing. I just sort of realized that I've been kind of marking out my life, about the days of my life by that tree in terms of, um, you know, watching the seasons change and, it's very beautiful. There's something really lovely about getting a sense of time passing, and I won't have that anymore. And the thing is, like, the position of the tree to sort of where I sit when I'm like taking a break or whatever, it's it's in such a way that I can just kind of glance outside and just sort of disappear for a little while and kind of fade off and zone out a little or something, you know. Um, so it's almost like a meditation object for me, in its own kind of way. Um, I've like taken many pictures of it, when I see the leaves are changing or something like that, and the thing was basically growing into like the electrical wires, whatever, the like phone wires and stuff. So had to go. I get it, but I just find it interesting that we kind of assign meaning to things, and so like that tree has a meaning to me, that it's sort of the clock of my time, in a sense, that it walks me through the seasons, and it's a very beautiful thing. Ah. So, yeah, I've been thinking about mortality a lot lately, and the idea of like time passing and us changing, getting older, you know, all that entails. Um, it's just been something on my mind recently. And then they cut my tree down. course, it's not my tree, but so I like this character. It's called Pierce Arrow. He's the archer of the group, and it's tough because I try to like rotate a lot and give every character a chance to say or do something so that you know there's a certain flow and everybody gets equal representation. I sound like a liberal in the narrative, that is, not on the job. Anyway, because these characters are all going to die at the end of this issue. Maybe that's why I'm thinking about mortality. No. Then the story will focus quite a lot on Militiaman, but not entirely, because the what do you call it? Conservative Incorporated that sponsors MAGA Force, they're hiring a whole new team, and this team is all like diverse. They're all the new diversity. Of Conservative Incorporated, and it sort of shows that kind of like get rid of the white man and replace him with people of color, because Germany in World War II, because slavery, and that the new MAGA Force, like MAGA Force 2.0, is a shit show. Like there's really only, well, there's maybe 3 guys in there that are trustworthy. Yeah, I guess I would say that. And they kind of end up joining Militiaman later in the story. Of course, I can't give too much away, but and it's not entirely racial, in the sense that how can I say this? For example, there's a mulatto character that in the end is a pretty good guy, and he chooses America. He chooses freedom, even under like fascist rule. He still chooses to support America under that, because he comes to finally realize that that's good for him too, and that'll protect him and his interests, that it's not what the enemies of freedom say that it is. But everybody is looking for an angle. Everybody's like, how can I hustle this, that kind of thing. So his thinking is he's going to be the president of the black ethno state. And so he's positioned pretty well to do that in the story. And he's actually a good guy, as far as like he's got good character. He's mulatto, but whatever. So I just find these things interesting. I want the story to have dimension. I'm not trying to make weird cookie cutter, I don't know, like the kind of stuff that essentially Walt Disney essentially makes now, where they're like, oh, you might be a boy, you might be a girl, and like it's just so freaking fake how they push their values and agenda. It's like so grotesquely obvious that this is fucking Marxist propaganda. Um, I can remember on Telegram a while ago, I was calling somebody out for some Marxist bullshit, and the other people in the thread were like, Marxism, what's that? So it it's super critical that people get this kind of education. Um, it's pretty freaking cool though when you can get across to them though, and sort of show or tell them like, this is what Marxism is, cultural Marxism, etc., and this is the manifestation of it in contemporary American culture. And they're like, oh, that's what it is. Like, oh, the big, what do you call it? The big light bulb goes off. Let's check the chat. Got a couple more, or maybe one more. Who's here? Dave is Martell's here. Excellent. Great to have you, Dave Martell. Did you just put out a new song, Dave? I wasn't 100% sure if it was you or Luke Mason. I think he posted something on Telegram somewhere, and I got the impression that you had put out a song. So, like, if so, let us know about it a bit, How are the Bizarchives coming? There's a lot of really, really kick-ass work. I'm a huge Dave Martell fan. Always promote what he's doing. We have talkers and we have doers. And this man is a doer, So I'm all about the doing, get her done kind of stuff, It's good. And some of my fans here on my channel are writers over at the Bizarchives. So that's another cool thing. They kind of go hand in hand pretty nicely, The whole deal of it is like, when can I quit my day job and do Bizarchives full time, Oh man, that'd be sweet. So there you go, and now you know. What else do I got going on here? A lot of times, the show is fun because the chat is fun, and we can get into some cool nitty gritty, whatever. Certain level of concentration I always have to have when I'm working, though, which is tough. I listen back to my shows and I hear myself going, that drives me nuts. That drives me nuts. Like, if I'm doing, a normal show with guests, believe me, I'm not going, like some imbecile. I just did it. Okay. So I'm just going to have to face the fact that drawing and talking, like in the form that I'm doing, requires extra brain power, I guess. So I hope you don't mind all the ums. Okay. Now, I had mentioned to Dave I would like to do a book of just like monsters and stuff. So this, something that would obviously go along well with the Bizarchives. And The circumstances mm, have changed a little bit in terms of like my schedule, what I'm able to do, what I'm able to pull off. I've got some major event, life event coming up that's gonna require me to stop working for a little while. Um, Nothing to be alarmed at, but I'll try to get back in the saddle as quickly as I can. It's driving me nuts though. I want to do everything. I want to do, you know, Dave's stuff. I want to do my stuff. I'm still turning down freelance work from people. It's because we're trying to make your own books. Every time you do somebody else's thing, then you're not making your own books. Um, Granted, I offered Dave like I'd like to do some like just monster art. Like cool sci-fi monster art for Bizarchive. So I think we'll get to that. Mm. When I'm not sure. Mm. So I'm pretty pleased with the way this guy came out. That's pretty tight. That feels good. I've had reservations about like this dude here. He can replicate himself or duplicate himself, and I'm like, well, should I put faces and details on every costume, or should I just let him be like a generic dude? Because they're not real. They're not him. They're duplicates of him. I don't know if I have their faces and stuff. I can. There's certain plot devices I could potentially use. Um, I don't know. I guess he's dying off in this first book, so maybe I shouldn't overthink it. Now, if Militiaman Maga Force ever turned into like a major deal, and somebody wanted to make a movie or blah blah blah, like it actually became successful, then it would be very cool to get a team together to do Maga Force comics with the original members, before they all get wiped out. And in comics, there's always a way to bring people back from the dead. And I already have that worked out in my mind. I'm like, okay, so this is that and this and that. If anybody asks, this is how they came back from the dead. Um, I think that's kind of the thing I'm sort of going for here is why would the sponsors of Maga Force kill their own team, Um, and I mean, straight out of the gate, there's that whole, well, because they're trying to hire or bring in a new Maga Force team that are not real patriots, but are mostly POC who, are using their power for their personal gain. And yeah, that's not an unusual kind of thing. We have like the grifters out there, the conservative ink grifters and um, all that. But it's also a kind of literary device that I want to have in order to express my thoughts on anti-white behavior among POC. In the movies and TV, they're all made to be like so virtuous and glorious and the next best thing and the coolest thing, and it's so cool and so cool. whereas in reality they're robbing, raping, and murdering us to the tune of 100, 200,000 people a year, and getting off, you know, from like judges that are Democrats and blah blah blah. The whole deal, the whole story. So I want to portray this kind of POC the way that they actually act, and it's obviously shocking to uh, I'd say sort of the average consumer. You know, they're like, you're not supposed to portray the truth, you know, that kind of thing. Um, but then there'll be our people, and even just I would say like average whites, like ordinary whites, who will be like, oh, that is so refreshing. You know, that's actually, you know, what they say and what they do and how they behave. And, you know, I'm so sick of having to pretend it's not that, you know, like the sort of Joker meme, like, are you saying that when too many black people are in public in one place, that there's a tendency for violence? Is that what you're saying? Yes, it is, and I'm not going to hide it anymore, or whatever he says. I forget the exact verbiage. Um, any comments? Let's take a look. Every once in a while I stop and check the chat. So what do we got here? Dave is here. I think we both did, but yeah, my new title is up. I call it Doomadelic Cosmic Rock. Sweet. That is cool, dude. You're gonna have to dress up like Doctor Doom for that. That'd be like a Guar thing, you know? The song is called Wild Wizard Man. Nice. It's all about, it's all good. I've got some big projects on my plate right now. We'll circle back around and look back again soon. Very, very nice. That's another beautiful thing, is just knowing that we're there. You know, we're gonna be around. You know, there's a lot going on in life, and you gotta have the staying power. Staying power. That could be like a cool theme for a song or something. Nice. Very nice. So Dave, do you play all the instruments on the song? Or do you have like a band? Um, I did teach myself drums. In the bands that I've had, I have a pretty nice studio for art and music, and so the drummer always leaves his drum set over here, and so what are you gonna do? You know, you just started noodling around and this thing and that thing, and next thing you know, you're like kicking ass on the drums. So that's been a lot of fun. I gotta check something here. Oh, there's just not enough time in the day, guys. You know, you want to do music, you want to do art, you want to do publishing. You got this, you got that. Okay, so in this example here, there's no details in like the duplicate bodies, so I guess I could technically get away with it. It might make more sense to do that, because then when people are reading, they'll know, well, you know, that's the main guy. It's not these other characters. So yeah, I think I'm probably gonna leave it without the details. I mean, he's got that crew cut or that flat top hairstyle, and he's super brawny, so I think I'm probably gonna get away with that. That should be fine, hopefully. Let's see what Dave had to say there about instruments. What do we got here? It's all good. Oh, not yet. So, recording is a whole other thing. I've worked with a variety of guys in recording studios, some very, very high level, like super expensive professional studios, you know. Um, mm, and like I've discovered that like for me, I like to play live and have like all of the instruments mic'd separately so that each one is kind of going into be recorded on a separate line, but we're playing in sync. You know what I mean? And because this like I don't know, when you have like say the drummer puts down the track and then the guitar player puts down the track and then the bass player puts down the track and then you sing over the track. It's very, very cold. It's like has no life at all. And it's so mechanical that it takes the fun out of music. Um, I've done that before to the extent where you know the other guys in the band are literally counting out the measures in the song, like measure 157. Okay, now change to the chorus. Like this is so stupid. Why the hell would we do that? That sounds horrible. I mean, just the process. I mean, the sound actually is fine, so long as you're on point with your timing and all that. But it's just a terrible process. Whatever. So, POC representation. Yeah. Well, we know that they are weaponized in all the media. I mean, from TV commercials to sports. You know, blacks are the vanguard. Gays, transsexuals are out there as well. Um, and we're supposed to just all like think this is normal, and you know I mean it's not that it's abnormal that there would say be people of color on TV, or so. I don't mean that, but um, to the extent where there's no fucking white people, or like the only white people are the bad guys, or they're creeps, or they're losers, and like even black people notice this. They're not, they can see this. Everybody can see it. It's not hidden, really. So, yeah, I do have an axe to grind, and I'm gonna grind it out in my book. I'm planning on using the N word in the book. Not it's done in such a way where they're black people talking to each other. Um, so it's not like in the sort of dictionary definition racist way per se, but I feel like that's a good thing to have because it's realistic, and I think if you want to create realistic characters, you don't shy away from the way that they talk. um, it astounds me that like in a world where you know in media, film, etc., like they're always trying to find new ways to be more vulgar, you know more offensive, etc., etc. And but it's got to fit within the anti-white narrative, just so long as white man bad, and like Christians bad, and straight people bad, or all of that stuff, then you can do or say whatever. Anyway, you have to rebel against that, I feel. And you do it by making art. You do it by creating something that goes against the narrative. That makes sense? All right. So let's check the chat in touch here. We got, oh, you guys are just chilling. Um, so back to the Uber Boy thing. So I was watching Uber Boy did a video on, yeah, essentially you could say it's like Christianity versus Friedrich Nietzsche. You know, that seemed to be the kind of the theme. And I didn't watch the whole thing. I couldn't get through it just because I had stuff to do, whatever. Probably go back and finish it up. But one of the things that I left off on was he was talking about how it's believed that religion is needed to cope with life's suffering. And I can't disagree with that. I know that there's a lot of, differing opinions and thoughts on the topic, but I do find that interesting just as a general theme. Like, what is it that, I don't know, how do we cope with pain, And that plays back into that topic of like, well, we're in this movement and everything's toxic and da da da, but how do we remain above it? You know what I'm saying? I suppose we each have our ways, but I do find that interesting. How do I stay above it? Well, I'd say this year I kind of, well, it was a bad year for me, as you guys know. But I finally hit a point where I had to realize that I can no longer live in this toxicity. I can't continue like this. It's hurting me. It's bad. It's unhealthy. And so what do I do? And so yeah, it's a tough call. I'm back to Qigong, which is the Chinese yoga. I know the camera's probably shaking violently. It's not an earthquake. So I'll just talk about Qigong a bit. Okay, so Qi is Vril, V-R-I-L. It's life force. It's in Hinduism they call it prana. In just neurological medicine, you could say bioelectric and energy. And how and what I'm doing is a number of things. So in the practice I do a bunch of practices, but the one that I'm focusing on now is it's a Taoist esoteric meditation system where you combine movement, breath, visualization, and I guess I'll just sort of try to explain it. So the mind is the source, and what you first must do is to attain one-pointed concentration. So there's many ways to do that. Just straight Zen, where you're just counting your breaths, is kind of boring. The mind likes to have things to engage in. But then also, like, for example, if I were standing in front of you right now and I said, oh, there's a spider in your hair, instantly you'd be like, ah, like you'd have a physiological jump scare reaction to that, where you would, be brushing your hair out, like, oh shit, there's a spider in my hair, like it's even though there's no spider in your hair, because you believed that it was there, you get a sudden rush of chemicals that your brain produces or your hormones produce, etc., that create a physiological experience slash reality. Well, this is a form of meditation technology. However, some of the stuff is just too deep and esoteric. I'm not going to try to even explain it, but I'll describe it. So, in Chinese medicine, which is 5,000 years old, they know, and of course they learned a lot from India, blah, 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 whatever, which is Vedic, which is Indo-European. You see where I'm going with that? Anyway, I'm trying to focus here while erasing. So first thing you're doing is you're breathing in and out in a more rigorous way. Not that you're doing faster, but you're doing kind of more, like so, not as noisy or whatever. There's certain motions that you can do that will move the chi around your body with as long as you will it to move. So after enough time of practicing this, you begin to get the actual feeling of the chi, and you know that's chi, and so I remember asking my teacher, how do I know what's chi, or when I'm like developing it, when it's concentrated, when it's moving, how do I know? Like, what does it feel like? And so he was kind of describing like it's a sort of like a warm fullness. I've heard so many descriptions of it, and all of them are kind of different. Like a kind of magnetism, which I think is a good description. What other descriptions? Energy. There's different kinds of energy, but anyway, so in doing this practice, I'm starting to calm my mind. And with calming my mind comes a lot of nice benefits. I don't know how to describe it, but it's sort of like, let's say you work a 9 to 5 and in front of a desk jockey type thing, and then you go out to the country for the weekend and you stay in a cabin. That kind of feeling of like, I'm back to nature. So that's sort of the sensation of it. Also, the mind is the one that's fabricating the worrying and the fear and the anxiety and the desire and all the suffering, mental suffering. So you're silencing the mind, not like you're silencing it forcefully, but rather you're sort of controlling it, coercing it, using it for something healthy and positive. And then from there, I start to accumulate chi, accumulate vril, energy, and that you do that by lifting it. Well, before I even do any of that, I do like a detoxifying qigong, where I draw up earth energy into my system, and then I kind of spew out the negative energy. I know that this sounds totally ridiculous to you guys, but I'll start coughing like hacking and coughing when I do this, because it's essentially your body has like turbid chi, or like it's sort of like a pool of water that just sits there and sits there. It's like it gets mucky. So this is the same kind of thing. And when you kind of like flush out the mucky chi, you're gonna get that kind of nauseous, like kind of coughing and hacking up this. So this literally physically happens until you feel like you've got it out. And then once it's out, then you're kind of cleaned out, refreshed. You're ready to do the more esoteric practices. So after that, then I'll kind of go into It's a Shaolin system where you're just you're lifting your hands up and you're pushing your hands down as you breathe in and breathe out. But what you're doing is you're filling up your belly, and then sort of like that entire region of your hips, your belly, um, when you breathe in. And then when you breathe out, you envision the energy going up your spinal cord to your brain. And then you get a huge zing. You get a real nice rush from that. And it feels like a sudden shot of espresso, where you're nice and awake, and it's refreshing and stimulating. And then you let the chi fall down the front half of your body back into the well, so to speak, into your yeah. There's all these Chinese words for this things, but I don't want to use like fancy foreign words. Um, and then you just keep this system going, whereas you lift it up and then you breathe out, and so breathe in goes to the gut, breathe out, it goes to the crown of the head. And do that for a few minutes. Don't ever push it, always kind of relax into it. And now you're primed. You are primed, you're ready to start cooking. And so from there I go into the more esoteric practice where I'm visualizing a fire in my bladder. And then that fire, you have to visualize it getting like bigger and bigger and stronger. And then the kidneys begin to boil from the fire in your bladder. This is alchemical. Okay, this is alchemy. And so you've got to visualize like intensely while you're doing this breathing. And so you're doing the two things, visualizing really hard, you're breathing in a very systematic way, and then you start getting these sensations in the abdomen, and you know it's working. Um, and the problem is this is a very hard meditation technique, so it takes a long time to complete the whole thing, and it takes an intense amount of like mental concentration just to do it. Um, so I haven't done it in a long time, so I've been getting back to that recently and building up my ability to do it. You know, it's sort of like in a sport or something, you would have to practice the sport long enough to kind of get back up to speed, if you will, you know? So it's the same kind of thing. I'm conditioning myself. Um, so then it gets even more kind of interesting from there. So once the kidneys are boiling with this chi energy, and of course it's on a like a kind of a energetic, maybe quantum level, but it's physical, you do feel it. Then the not fog, what the steam from that rises up into your heart, and it causes a kind of a cloud around your heart. And then after enough time, this alchemical cloud will creates a kind of like a starlight in your heart. And then that light produces a kind of nectar, like a spiritual nectar. What I visualize as mercury, liquid mercury. It, there's different ways that they describe how you could visualize it, like an opalescence, like a liquid opalescence. If you could imagine liquid electricity, if electricity were in a liquid form, what would that look like? So then you can almost think of it like it's a white hot not lava, but when you melt down metal, you get what? Not lava, molten metal. Yeah. and then that drips down into the very, very bottom of the perineum, which is your sexual root. And then from there, you use the original breathing to bring it back up to the crown of the head, and then just you recycle and you recycle and you recycle. And so that's a hell of a lot of visualization to be doing. Um, it's hard. It's freaking hard to do. I'll just be straight with you, you know. But the benefit from it is extraordinary. And so I'm trying to get back into that. Let's see if I've scared everybody off. If there's anybody in the chat, like, what the hell are you talking about? It's kind of like Tai Chi, yes. So there's some fun stories if you guys want fun stories. Um, when I moved to Taiwan, my I had already been doing Shaolin Kung Fu for 3 years and other kinds of Kung Fu for years before that, and so I moved to Taiwan and I'm going through the YMCA, and they have a homestay program, you know, where you live with a family, and I'm excited about that. I did that in Japan, so it's pretty much the right thing to do. You get a family to work with. You're new to the country. You really should have some people there to help you out and look after you, you know. So I get a homestay. Well, like I get a choice between an apartment and a homestay family. And I'll be honest, at first I was like, well, I want my own apartment because I'll be honest with you, I was very promiscuous back then. So I was like, oh, I gotta have my own apartment. Well, the apartment they showed me, this will all lead to Tai Chi eventually, by the way. Let me unfold the Tai Chi story. So the apartment has no windows. It smells of mold. It's, you know, you're in tropical weather. I'm like, no, there's no way. This is subhuman. I would never live like this. So okay, take me to the homestay family. You know, I had to kind of humble myself a little bit. I knew it would be okay, you know, but I just wanted that kind of, you know, love shack, if you will. So I get to the homestay family, and it's a nice couple. They're probably about 60 years old, both of them. They have three sons in college. I think all three of them were doctors. Actually, two. I apologize. Two sons. One was like a best friend who was always over at the house. And when the father of the homestay father is a Tai Chi master. Well, well, well. What do you know? I move all the way across the planet Earth right into the home of a Tai Chi frickin' master. So, guess who's getting up at 5 o'clock every day to go to the park and do Tai Chi? This mofo right over here. So, there's different. I know you guys wouldn't know these things, but anyway, there's different kinds of Tai Chi, and this particular one is called Yang style or Yang style, if you want to say it with an American accent. Um, it's probably the most traditional Tai Chi out there. I'd say there's more Yang style schools than maybe any other Tai Chi style. Um, Very classical, sort of what you would see in the movies. You know, that kind of slow moving, meditative, beautiful, and people don't know that in classical kung fu you were required in the old days to do Tai Chi as a prerequisite or a complement rather for all martial arts. So if you were doing tiger style or drunken style or long fist style or any kind of style, you had to take Tai Chi on the side. And I now I understand why. It embodies all of the most important principles of Taoist philosophy, And believe it or not, it's extremely deadly. I know it doesn't look that way, but if you took, say, an image or a film of a Tai Chi teacher and you sped it up real fast, you would see actually what the moves kind of look like. Um, I had the pleasure of sparring a Tai Chi guy some time ago. Let's check in the chat here. What's your opinion about the Jew hating white negatives whose fault it is the new law in Florida passed? White positive means positive for Western kind. Well said. Welcome. First of all, numerical courage. Glad to have you here. And I will answer your question. What's your opinion about the Jew hating white negatives whose fault it is the new law in F? Okay, so it's not their fault. That is a kind of a false flag. Um, I can see on the surface it looks that way, but if you understand the history, specifically of the Bolsheviks in Russia and the way that they manufacture a crisis, the Hegelian dialect is what they call it, where you create a problem to create the solution of the problem. So you, for example, you groom some poor kid in some small town who he's on like psychotropic drugs for depression, and he's an incel, and you get online and you pretend to be his buddy and you send him guns and you tell him to go to this school or this supermarket and shoot the place up and something like that. And then suddenly the news is all about making new laws to control guns, And so this is the technique that they use. And we're definitely leveling up in terms of seriousness here because, okay, so the Jews have something called Noahide law, which is essentially Jewish Sharia law. And that is what they're instituting. That's what's happening. That's what's going on with this kind of stuff. I it's convoluted. I can see your perspective in terms of like, Jew hating caused this, and that we shouldn't hate the Jews or whatever. Hatred has a role in life as much as love does. Uh, One has to be very careful not to be consumed by hatred. It's it's a force that can be used, I think, for survival, but it's a very, very dangerous fire. It's kind of like nuclear material here. It's very, very unsafe to handle, if you will. Um, but at the same time, if you don't openly hate the things that will destroy you, then what good is your love? Your love is just plastic flowers on a grave. You see what I'm saying? So, as far as the movement is concerned, the white positive movement, I don't think that we've really had a serious conversation about hatred yet. Um, I wouldn't mind moderating that, something like that. I'm not for hating anybody for no good reason. Um, the Jewish controlled media has whites cornered, I guess, if you will, in terms of they own our narrative. They run our narrative. We are made to constantly apologize when we're not, and everybody against us. And then, after a while, you do become racist when everybody's racist against you. Um, I don't, that's another topic. Like, I don't think racism is as bad as they say it is. I think it's humanity's default setting. I don't think it's good outside of, how do I say this? You have to have pattern recognition to see that people of other cultures, ethnicities, races are going to hurt you or want to hurt you, and you have to know how to handle yourself properly. So this is essentially what's called racism. But racism is really a word created by Leon Trotsky to silence Russians from criticizing Jews who were creating communism. And so that war isn't over. World War whatever is not over. We're still in it, but it's fifth generation warfare, it's psychological warfare, it's media culture warfare. There's a lot going on that is very, very hard to understand. It's very, very hard to understand. So I don't blame people for getting upset about stuff like this and having the impression that, well, if whites were nicer to Jews, then they wouldn't be making anti-white laws like they did in Florida. There's a huge missing piece to this crime, to this puzzle. So you have to kind of first off ask, like, literally everything is the opposite of what it is in truth. So like, there's what we live under is Jewish supremacy. When you cannot critique any group of people without saying, having a law made to put you in jail because you critiqued them, and when they get to say, oh well, this is true and that's not true, they get to dictate truth, then like, you see where this is going. This is like, it's kind of like having a king, and the king is like, I'm always right because I'm the king. And we're living under that. We're really living under that. So when you criticize the king, you get thrown in the dungeon. And this is madness. It's madness. America fought a war of independence to get away from kings. And now we have a Jewish king. All Jews are our kings. America is a vassal state of Israel. We are tax slaves for Israel. There's I don't know if I'm answering your question. There's a lot of, it's easy to go off on tangents. So I'm going to check the responses here a little bit. Do you have any Kung Fu movies? I have a handful from the 70s and 80s. Yeah, when I first decided I wanted to do Kung Fu, I went like movie mad, like movie madness, went out and, rented a bunch. This is back in the Blockbuster days, tons of fun. I think I have the 5 Deadly Venoms, which is one of my all-time favorites. If anybody is a true Kung Fu movie fan, you would certainly know that one. I used to spar a guy, he's from Beijing, a Chinese dude, and like I had mentioned, I ran like a sparring club for 8 years, and so having a guy from Beijing in the club was pretty cool. It was a neat experience to be able to spar him. Where am I going with this? Anyway, so at the time I was kind of doing the comic book stuff and was curious about that and the Marvel movies and all this. And then, I talked to him about the 5 Deadly Venoms. And, they wear the masks of, Scorpion style, Toad style, the Centipede, all that kind of stuff. And he says to me, you know what? These are Chinese superheroes. This is what we have. They're, because they have, a massive, massive literature of Kung Fu novels. You can imagine a novel about Kung Fu. I never read one, but they're massively popular. Anyway, so yeah, Five Deadly Venoms. Anybody and everybody who's Western and they want to get into martial arts, they kind of go through a phase of what I call Orientalism. And what that is they get really, what's the word, like, carried away with the exoticism of Asian culture. And, it's, it's you know, like the obsession, say, with manga and like, anime, Japanese, anything and everything. That is Orientalism. That's our people thinking like, oh, this is better than what we have, because it's so exotic, it's so cool, it's so different, and da 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 da. And you have to get over that. It's kind of a like a lot of the martial arts schools out there. That's what they're selling you. They sell you the uniform. They sell you the impression that you do martial arts. Within the context of the school and this culture, and it's I won't say that it's fake, but it's fake. You know what I mean? Like I spar a dude. He's American, but he is like a lineage holder for a certain uh, kung fu system, and I can sweep the floor with him. I could beat him any day of the week. And it's not because I'm arrogant, but it's because the Chinese are not going to share their secrets with Cow Eyes. They're not going to share their martial secrets with us. They'll take our money, they'll smile, they'll act like we're friends, and if you want to open a school or be a student or something, then oh, they're so happy. Da 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 da. I think I might turn this down or off. I'm not a fan of the vocal stuff. Sorry. Hang tight, gents. Um, okay. So, I don't know. I guess that answers your question there. Well, let's see what else we got going on here. Yes, I have that. The old man has a blade in his braid and swings it in his combos. Haha, cool. Also, 36 Chambers of Shaolin is epic, 100%. A very huge classic right there. And I think they are the hero's journey, like Conan and Josie Wales. So I'm assuming you're talking about these kung fu characters. So it's in a way it's Chinese soap operas in a way. It's about families and people that work and then like the landlord comes and I'll only give you so long, and then somehow or other he kills the brother, and then there has to be revenge, and you know, um, and what you see in a movie is definitely not how you're gonna move in reality. It's choreographed. Mm, super fun though, man. That's kind of my thing that I would like to impress on our people is to learn martial arts for health and self defense. We live in a shitty situation right now, and I feel like you cannot be safe enough. You cannot be vigilant enough. You got to be like take some responsibility for your safety, and like carrying a gun isn't really what I'm talking about. Obviously, I'm not against guns or whatever, but legally. But you gotta know how to defend yourself, man. I mean, especially now, you know. I'm kind of at a state where I'm more afraid that I'd kill somebody, you know, just because. Well, I'll put it this way: if there were multiple attackers, I would have no problem doing whatever I need to do. Because once you get into that realm, now your life is in danger, you know. And it's good to study those. Like, I'm not a fan of watching these violent videos. I hate them, to be honest. But it's a good thing to watch and kind of see what techniques people use. And a lot of these street monkeys, they use the same techniques over and over. It's pretty common at this point. You know, they'll have like a setup guy who comes in and tries to talk to you. He's just a hustler trying to distract you, and then you have like a soccer punch guy, and then once you're on the floor, then they all the rats come in and start kicking you, and it's the same thing over and over. So what would I do in a situation like that? Well, for starters, I wouldn't put myself in an environment where that would happen. Um, you have to, you know, I mean, I suppose there's maybe avoid being in such environments, or I don't know, for one reason or another, you're there and now you're in it, and then you got to deal with it. You know, one of the things to do is to put people in between you. So, like, if you're here and there's two guys here, then they could both come at you. But if you move over here, now, one guy's in front of the other guy. And so you're constantly moving in such a way as to put someone in between you and the other guys. And that way you're fighting one person at a time. You know, let's check the chat here. So my phone's not dying this time because I've got it plugged in. I think they are the heroes. Why'd you move to Thailand for work or what? So it's Taiwan, not Thailand. Just I know that's very easy to confuse the two. They sound similar. Years ago, when I lived in New York City, I was an English teacher, English as a second language. And at the time in my life, I wanted to learn Kung Fu and Buddhism. And I had already lived in Japan years earlier through an exchange program. And I just had, you know, this interest. So it occurred to me, like, you know what, you should learn Chinese language and go over there and, get into the trade field. This is the future. China's the future. That was the idea that I had at the time, and I think a large part of it was adventure. I nowadays I'm not at all like that. I'm very like stay home. um, more because I want to get my artwork done, my publishing stuff done, and whatever. And so that's a thing. I was quite a bit younger at the time as well. And I guess, when you're young, that's kind of the time to do those things. Not that I'm old, but, there is a time in your life that's more optimal for travel and living overseas. I didn't ever plan on staying there. Um, by the way, I did travel on vacation in Thailand, not Taiwan, but that was just like a 2 week vacation. That's another story. So I went over there um, through a work program. I even took like a master's course in teaching English, um, and I was pretty deep into the teaching English world. And so, teaching English as a second language is like what do you want to call it? A passport. So, if you're interested in any kind of country, you can become an English teacher and go there. It's a thing. So, granted, like, I mean, it used to be at some point in the past where they would take anybody, and I think a lot of guys took advantage of the fact that you didn't really have to have an education or a degree, you know, in this field. But anyway, that happened, yada yada. Um, I wanted to continue, so I started learning about kung fu and Buddhism at Shaolin Temple in New York City. And I thought, what I should do is continue these studies in Asia, like in a sense more seriously. And that was actually a foolish thing to think because I was already at Shaolin Temple. Like I already had, whatever. But I guess I was constantly in the way of thinking of like, well, I've got to up my game. I've got to up my game. I've got to do this. I gotta always have something better. And I think this is kind of a symptom of youth where you feel like you're almost competing in a sense where like how what's the word? How can I have the best or something? Or how can I be the best at whatever it might be? Um, but looking back, even though it was phenomenal and life changing and deeply enriching, I'm kind of like, what I probably would have been, I could have done more had I stayed home, you know, if I just concentrated, say, on my art or just focused on what I was learning already at Shaolin. I didn't need to go anywhere. But it's like when you're young, you don't want to listen to anybody, and I didn't really have anybody to tell me what to do anyway. So anyway, there it is. So how are we doing on the chat action here? It's kind of kind of low key tonight. We had a big talk. Hey, CG's here. How you doing, man? Did you guys just do a show, CG? Um, yeah. So I'm making a lot of headway with this graphic novel. Feeling good about that. Always feels good when you're making progress. So in this scene in this page, um, it's like a kind of a fighting montage um, with the Maga Force guys, and the wife of Militiaman, the leader of the group, is kind of standing on the side, you know, watching the montage or whatever. But really, what's going on is that one of the guys who works for Conservative Inc. is obsessing about the wife. He has like a crush on the wife, which plays out later in the story. Um, yeah, it's funny because like there's a lot I'd like to tell you, but it's kind of like wouldn't make sense at this point. You have to like read the story. um, so CG, what's up, man? How was your show? What do we got here? We just got done with our Hammer of Blood tribe fam from the Ohio rally. Wow. Um, wow, man. What's shaking in Ohio? You know, other than like toxic floods and shit. Um, that's pretty heavy stuff. So the word Ohio comes from the word Ohio, which is actually Seneca Indian. I think it could be Erie Indian. There were different tribes in the area, and it just means river. You know, um, Ohio River. So anyway. Can hear my son clunking around upstairs. Tonight is his big D&D night. Does D&D with his buddies. It's actually got like I think like a little international crew, and they all play like once a week. You know, I'm surprised I never got into D&D. That just I missed the boat on that. I'm not super sure really whether I would like it. Um, I mean, people that know me think that I would like it. So, you know, maybe presumably I would, based on them knowing me. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I would if I had maybe started when I was young or something. All right, check the chat. Um, 60 viewers. Congratulations. Very good. It was an anti-drag queen story time. Good. Slots is here. Hey, man, it's been a while. Hi, Ben. Did you make the after party logo? I did. Yes, I did. Very proud of that. Um, it's an interesting question. That what makes you ask that question? For me, when I don't remember quite how that worked out, but all I can tell you is that when I was working with Jason to do that, I was nerding out like really hard because I was like, oh my god, I'm talking to Jason Kuna and I'm doing this thing for him, and it felt awesome. There was actually another graphic that he commissioned me to do on shadow banning, which I still have. but he ended up not using it. Don't know why. That's his own stuff, I guess. But um, yeah, every time I tune into the show and I see that graphic, and I drew it, I made it. It's kind of surreal. It's funny and cool, you know, in the sense of like, damn, I made that, that feels nice. And like, look at the profound impact Jason has had. Uh, it's quite something, it's quite a lot. So to have like a small place in there is means a lot to me. I feel really proud of that. So I'm always thinking, from using like the inspiration from Jason of like, well, what more dialectic could we be using? What more could we be doing? Um, you know, um, I feel like there's a lot. Like we're creative, we're intelligent. We should have like think tanks. We should have meme campaigns. We should be doing a lot more, as far as I could tell. So let's check the chat. And what's up? Seemed like your style. Yes, correct. And you're the only one I know with that talent. um, I can't say there's anybody in our sphere that's quite like me. I mean, there are. Well, what you guys don't know yet is that there's a huge new generation of artists coming up in the White Art Collective. I've lost track of how many, but a lot. And I'm not running that particular show, so I don't know how much I can say, reveal about it, or whatever. But eventually, I am gonna have people from the new generation on my channel, and I will feature their work, pass the torch or whatever, help them to get some recognition. Anyway, the point I'm making is that there's lots of great visual artists in these groups. My stuff is very unique. It's I've really, I've been freelancing for a long time, and I have a lot of skill. A lot of experience and skill. Plus, teaching art has its own kind of, mm, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it gives me legitimacy in a sense that I know how to talk about art, how to critique art. I know theorize about it. I understand its relevance to culture. The Imperium Art Show is, I think, a good kind of example of all that stuff. Um, so, um, yeah, what's going on? Hello to I. Welcome to the all-seeing eye. Thank you for coming. Hello. Tonight we draw in hell. Cheers. Yes, because it's pretty rough out there, folks. Pretty rough out there. Um, but I'm glad to have you guys around to make it nicer to get through. Um, all right. So I'm just deciding all over the page what I want to do. It will give you guys a tiny update on the pages I have done. There's something kind of cool to share with you. I created a 2-page spread. So what that looks like is there's a big fight scene, and then it opens up to, like, however you can see that. There's, when you're opening up a comic book, you'll see the 2 pages as one image. And I know that these are light pencils, it's hard to see, but this is gonna be freaking epic when it's done. And I'm even thinking it should make a kind of a neat poster or something. Like, it'd be nice to have those available or something on my website or something like that. I see another comment, and it says what? Luke was saying your musing on the China-U.S. anti-white takeover was black pilling. But it's cool to see you have those instincts. We do have to be cognizant. So, musing on the China-U.S. anti-white takeover. So I know I'm all over the internet with different platforms, but I'd like to know what was the exact thing that I said. Like, what was the exact post that made this person think it was black pilling? I don't want to lie to you guys. I don't want to, pretend everything's going to be okay kind of thing. I've never been like the black pill guy, I'm hurting right now. I'm really, I feel like we're in a really, really bad place. It's not something I go into much on this show. I feel like Twitter is enough to kind of lambaste the New World Order. I'd be curious to know what it was that I said that was so-called like blackpilling, but I do say some things like that. Anyway, just this morning, I had the idea to try to not be so blackpilling, and to try to work on some positive dialectics. So, and I had mentioned this earlier in the show. I put out a ton of hashtags, saying whites will win. Hashtag whites will win. And then I just added like really nice synthwave art, some memes, visuals that are enjoyable for people. And I figured, you know what, like, everybody's gonna have their own aesthetic. Somebody's gonna like this like synthwave art, and somebody's gonna want an American flag, and something. So I put a ton of them out there with different images on, thinking people will just repost or retweet the image that like suits them. And later in the day, I kind of went back to check it out, and I got a lot of likes, but there were very few people that shared. And I'm like, we gotta do stuff, man. We gotta get involved, be involved in don't just fucking like things. Come on, man. If you're in the know, you have a responsibility. You have to speak up. You cannot be silent. You cannot rest on your laurels or whatever. And I mean, sharing, commenting, whatever, like getting involved online is the very, very least you could be doing. Granted, we don't all have, whatever skills or things that we can offer. So like, I don't know. It's been really frustrating to me to try to get people to do stuff, and I'm not really going to indulge in like negative thinking though. Mainly because if you look at everything whites have been through, I think we're gonna get through this too. Like I don't feel I don't know how to say it, but I feel as if like it's not us to fail. It's not us to die off. Granted, we're in some very horrible circumstances that are pretty heavy, but I just can't. I can't. I don't know. I can't believe it because I don't feel that there's evidence enough to believe it. And I know that because I'm not trying to just be sort of like naively positive, sort of, but rather look at our history, look at how far we've come and what we do. I'm more of the Kai Moros guy, where when whites finally choose to stand up and do what they have to do, then it's gonna be hell on earth for our enemies. It will be hell on earth for them. They will regret the day they were born, and when and how that manifests, I don't know. But I do feel that it's coming. You know. Um, so that was a pretty bold thing to say. My gosh, I'm so bold. Um, I'm really curious what it was I said specifically about China and Russia, though. One thing I think I can say with confidence is that the Jew world order is setting up China and Russia as the new hegemony. That's the what's it called? CG would have the words right now. What's that area? That's Russia and China. It's that whole area is called the what area? It's like the I can't fucking remember it. But anyway, it's not America. Okay, put it that way. Um, Now everyone's all down on America and wars and da da da. We didn't fucking do the wars. Our politicians did, and we know now that like specifically from like the Bush dynasty, you know, you know what I mean. And so there's no like you can't kind of blame Americans for that. I think we were duped. We fell for it in terms of like the whatever the kind of America number one narrative or whatever the that whole thing. But I don't know. There's a movie Christian Bale played the vice president. What's his fucking name? George Bush, not Dan Quayle. Man, I'm not. Brain's not working tonight. But you guys probably know the one I'm talking about. He was the CEO of Halliburton. What's that guy's name? Um, anyway, I strongly recommend that movie, and it's a kind of a good example of. It's a great example of like how that system worked and how it was just money for oil. The kind of opportunist. Of course, there's nothing in that movie regarding, is like the Israeli dancers, and the whole Mossad side of these things. But I'm gonna check the chat. See, you guys probably know the name of what I'm talking about. Um, let's look. Love the fight scene, by the way. Which fight scene? Telegram, yes. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So you're talking about Luke Mason. Luke and I are super close. So like, we have a pretty high level of like a high standard for, if we have disagreements, it doesn't really matter. You either work them out or you don't. But in the end, we'll always be friends. In real friends, but also in friends in the movement. Because as I would put it, I would say like you gotta set some things aside. You can't let your ego destroy your relationship with people to the extent that it's not helping the movement. You know what I mean? That's my view. I'm gonna read the next comment, and like Luke is also very what's the word, contemplative. He's a hard rocker dude and everything, but he's also like this super sensitive philosopher dude, and he can have some really really great conversations. The full page comic you showed, very nice. Oh, great! Thank you, appreciate that. So let's get back. I is saying if there was a volcano, I could hurl myself into appease our angry inverted world. I would. We don't do that anymore. We live in a society. I think we should band together and not pay taxes. I strongly agree. Dude, if just every white person in America collectively stopped paying taxes, we'd bring the system to its knees. I says, starve the beast and take our self-sufficiency, isolationist, constitutional republic back. Definitely. Thank you for mentioning Zog. People are afraid to talk about it. Eurasian. God, I hate myself when I can't think of certain words, right? Eurasian. That was exactly what I was talking about. Yes, the Eurasian landmass is what it's called, correct. A full pitch. Da, da, da. So, there's a guy called Brandon O'Connell on YouTube, and he is very intense. He's a very intense guy. He does intel exposure on the New World Order. And so I would write his name down, Brandon O'Connell. This is Brandon with a Brendan. Brandon or Brandon? Anyway, he was arrested. He's Australian, and he's wanted by Interpol. Um, he's the real deal. This guy is the real deal, and he leaks and shares all kinds of stuff that the New World Order doesn't want you to know. So I follow him on YouTube. It's shocking that he's allowed to exist on YouTube, but I think that's how they maybe how they track people or some shit. I don't know. Anyway, check him out. And so that's essentially my resource for a lot of the stuff that I know regarding, like, you know, uh, what Israel's doing to change the world in the way that it is and all this shit. So, um, there's the Greater Israel Project, which is to take over all of Iran, and of course all their resources. I think it might even include parts of, say, like this, like some other parts in that region. I don't know, like how much of Iraq or who knows, but definitely all of Iran. And so if you look at the kind of geography of it, you've got Israel, Iran, Russia, so like the pipeline, the whole deal, they're kind of cornering the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Um, I'm essentially just preparing for America's downfall. And that is something I don't have a crystal ball. I can't say that I know what's going to happen or not. Um, but these forces are so much larger than any of us, and nobody is stopping them. That's the thing, is that they just go on unabated. and they go on unabated, and they go on unabated, and nobody's arrested and nobody's held accountable, and it goes on and on and on, and it's the same cycle. The left does some shit, the right complains about it, and then the next news cycle, and the left does some more shit, and the right complains about it, and nothing gets done, and it's just it's fucked up. It's super supremely fucked up. Uh, I don't believe in the system anymore, like at all. Um, and by system, I mean even like the medical system and like almost everything. You know, I'm pretty. I don't know, pretty much done. I guess I don't know how else to put it, but where am I going with all this? Yeah. Sure, you're not black pilled. No. I don't really know that that's black pilled because it's like these are just the things that are happening. I mean, this is just the realities of life as it is. And again, without seeing any force to stop these things, then why would I believe they're going to stop? They're not, you know. There needs, I mean, I could tell you, I believe that it's going to take a fucking miracle or some kind of like, I don't know, it's going to take something extremely powerful and extremely huge to stop the system at this point. It's too big. The Jews are in control of pretty much everything. And I don't know, it's like we exist in this fake space of like the internet, you know, or I can be in my house and talk to you in another country, and we can have all kinds of cool based ideas and stuff, but we don't have any real power. And tomorrow there'll be one more outrage, and the next day there'll be another and another and another. And so I'm kind of at that place where I'm like, okay, this is how it is. And what can I do? You know, how much can I do? You know, that's legal and that is within my means. You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty fucking hard. I do things. I have, you know, I was just telling you about the Whites Will Win hashtag campaign. You know, I started that this morning. I'm going to keep doing that over time. But like shit like that doesn't work if people don't fucking share my stuff, you know? And it's not about me. It's not about, oh, better share Don's stuff. You know, it's not that. It's, um, you see a positive message, you should pass it on. You know what I mean? Pass it on, man. Like, get involved in moralizing our culture. It's already bad enough, right? Like, we I don't know. To me, I don't see why people wouldn't partake in like doing more positive things. So I've been ranting and raving over here. Would I like to have political influence? Yes. Um, I got some plans, but we'll see how that goes. All right, checking the chat, seeing what's going on up here. Brendan O'Connell. Oh, I already knows about him. That's freaking awesome. I gotta go way back here. Eurasian, Brandon O'Connell, and Mike Gill. I know the name Mike Gill, and I probably know the face. So I think he's another guy out there doing this kind of work. They're the real deal. Yes, took the words out of my mouth. Reality pilled. Truth hurts. Denial kills. Wow, damn, dude, you got some skills. I hope Gab releases Uncensored AI chat research bot. I have used ChatGPT to find two species of bluebirds. Wow, that's cool. With different nesting patterns and geography, different color feathers, but genetically closer than human species. Whoa, that's fascinating. That's interesting. That opens up another kind of can of worms. Um, AI, that's its own other sort of thing. Um, where is it going? Where will it take us? I'm drawing very carefully here, so I'm not talking so much. But the eyes you cannot get the eyes wrong. You have to get them right. You gotta be really, really, really careful when you're doing those. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that what I have to say about AI is any different than your average curmudgeon. I'm not a fan. I'm not excited about it. I know some of the like warnings or bad things say that are coming, and it's just I don't know. Um, so like I said, I'm just kind of like in the mode of thinking like, how can I make it so that my son survives the coming collapse, and for a very long time I was like, oh no, no, we can fix this, we can fix this. Now I'm of the mindset of like, all right, how do we survive this? There's a saying. It's not a saying. There's a like a historic fact where Spain was occupied by Muslim Islam, I'll just say, for 700 years, and finally kicked their asses out. And it's a kind of like you know a white pill or whatever for us, in this regard. I think that it's essential that we don't let up on naming the Jew, that we don't let up on what we're doing. I know they're trying to make it illegal to tell the truth about them. Um, Obviously, they're doing that because it's working. It's having an impact on. Um, People don't trust the media anymore. They don't trust the government anymore. So like anything it says, people automatically know. Then the opposite must be the truth. If they say, "Oh, anti-Semitism is on the rise," why? It's like why? What's going on? Um, so, but we have to be in the game. We have to be out there, you know, on the whatever the threads or the Facebooks or this and that and the other thing, and you know, making our points. And I see our people are doing that. I see what's going on, and we're coming out in droves, and we're just like blasting people with truth bombs all the time. And so that is impressing others. It's not a lot different from, say, when you had to convince people, don't vote for Hillary because she's a psycho criminal, she's corrupt, blah, 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 blah. Well, now, we're talking about anti whiteism, we're talking about Israel, we're talking about, you know, um, black crime statistics, and you've got, there's real movement happening in culture. So we shouldn't sit back and be like, oh, la 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 la. Like it's more important now than ever for us to get out there. So like, don't make me angry. Get out there and fucking push, man. Now's the time. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to show you some kung fu. All right, who's here? Who's here? 0022. Good to have you. Welcome. Slot says classical guitar is based. Slot says I love Andre because he makes new classical guitar music like a champion. I guess I know Andre. I should. Um, I assume he's in the White Art Collective. But yeah, well, I definitely like classical guitar specifically. But a big reason why I play it is because it's mostly copyright free. Um, I get messages all the time from YouTube, and it's weird. They'll be like, "This is not a copyright strike," but somebody claimed a copyright on some song that you played, and I figure Beethoven is not around to complain about copyrights or whoever wrote these songs. Anyway, it's really, really cool to have you guys here. Um, Good to chat with you. It is kind of sad in a way, but it's also great that we're all living in different places, but yet we're sort of family, the cause, the movement. It's good to not have to explain myself. I have thought recently, like, how would I explain my position to my family, if I had to? And they've already made up their minds about me since I'm anti vax. Um, I was in a health crisis recently, and I knew that the family were informed about it, but I only got like one text from one cousin, and it proved to me that I'm pretty much dead to them, since I don't go along with the vax narrative, and that's pretty painful. There's probably more to it, but it's definitely political. I tell you that the Jews have done a fucking job on me, man. Turning my family against me, creating the COVID virus that killed my mother, presumably. I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole, but a question was interesting earlier about, like, the notion that the anti-whites, through their hatred of the Jews, has created the new anti-free speech laws in Florida. And that's like, this is the narrative they want you to believe. You know, it's amazing how it's all about information. It's all about who gets to talk, and who gets to say what. It's the whole fucking thing. Oh, you didn't, you you said something that we don't like. You're in trouble. It's insane how the gatekeepers of lies and truth and all this, like, how they live on lies. They literally live on lies. It's insane. This kind of stuff. It sounds like a science fiction novel or a movie or a comic book. It's like, you know, it's funny because they want us to live in fear, but that's all they do. You know what I mean? Like, their whole life is paranoia. Their whole life is fear. Um, I mean, am I wrong? Because it's like living in a way in which you have to control the whole world, the entire internet, and like, make sure that people say this and don't say that. That's psychotic. It's psychotic. But it just goes to show, the Lord of Lies. The synagogue of Satan. This shit's crazy. All right, let's see what you guys are chatting about up there. Numerical courage. I'm missing some good conversation over here, guys. I love Andre. I guess you know the name better than I do, so I'm sorry I'm not as educated. YouTube doesn't handle internet drops well. It freezes the whole stream. I have my phone plugged in finally, so this show is really, really long because of it. I think it's a generational thing. They followed the DDT spray truck. Think Israel is our greatest ally, etc. Yeah, the DDT spray. Good point. The TV has corrupted their minds. I feel you. I lost my mom too. I'm so sorry to hear that, man. I really deeply am. I'm still grieving very hard over that. If you don't hate other races, you wouldn't have hesitation to tell your family. Is it really because of the vax? That's a deep topic. I've talked a lot about it. I don't know if I'm going to go into that. The way that the whole purpose of this thing is to kill people off, to depopulate. That's the program. And they have many ways to do that. So they can say you have COVID, but you have pneumonia, and then they put tubes down your throat and give you remdesivir. It's a medicine, and the two things together will make you drown in your own fluids and kill you. But they tell you it was COVID, and that's what happened to my mom, I believe. Slots is saying at Numerical Courage, we're all dealing with noir negativity. Yeah. My condolences. Thank you. Slots, he is being really ant-nat. Is that antique nationalist narrative? We were able to go on college campuses before. Yeah, that's true. I watched tons of Richard Spencer videos on college campuses. That was when it was good. Why we can't now, but where before?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Yes, he is. It's a white noir. This guy has served white well-being even with that interference. Tell me more about this numerical courage situation. I know the name. Um, I think I'm less on top of things than I used to be. I really used to be really on top of things, and I think since my mom's death, that's obviously changed my the way I spend my time. Yeah, I'd say I'm on top of many things, but you can't be on top of everything. So this right here is the big smashing through the wall scene. So there's got to be millions of little bits of brick shards flying out everywhere. Um, you guys are probably having a more interesting talk here. Why can't we know that Richard Spencer, that guy, promotes the legalization of child porn? What? Whoa, I didn't know anything about that. I have. Is this the same guy we're talking about? Hyperborean Jim is here. Great talent. As always, Donald, thank you, sir. That does mean antique nationalist. Richard Spencer is another example of an ant now that you mention it. So I don't really go into Spencer Waters anymore. When he was clearly our guy, then I was a big fan, and I choose to kind of like leave the bookmark there, so to speak, in the Richard Spencer book. My theory is that he, after Charlottesville, he was threatened to, you know, toe the line, you know, denounce everything that he stood for, and uh, blah blah blah, and like troll his own followers. And because I don't understand, I really don't believe that you can be that far down the path of promoting white well-being as he was. I mean, the dude's on Fox and CNN. You know, I mean, this is there was it was a different thing, and then suddenly he's like pro-vax and vote for Biden and all this shit. I don't believe that you go that hard of a turn in that short of a time without having your family's lives threatened. This is my personal theory. Nobody told me that this. It's just a theory. Um, I do feel that it's reasonable, considering all things considered. You know, there were legal battles. You know, Unite the Right, Charlottesville was no joke. It was a heavy duty situation. You know, And I think that my theory holds water. I really do. Um, I even told him that once, actually. So, but like anything he's said since, sort of like, let's say, since the end of Charlottesville to now, I guess I'm kind of tuned out on. And so, like, if he's saying wacky things that are just clearly against our values, then count me out. Like I'm not there. But as far as the Ant Nat thing goes, I'm not. I think I'm probably what you would call an Ant Nat as well. Um, in that, like, I don't. How do I say this? We're not going to the past. We're never. The past is gone. We're never going back. It's the end. However, if we don't know the history and we don't use that knowledge, then we're not going forward. And so I can understand how the optics of Uncle A are problematic for most people. I get that. Um, Unfortunately, most people don't know the true history of World War II and who is controlling that narrative against us. So when you see that situation from that perspective, everything changes. Everything changes. Um, so like I take the word ant nat to be a kind of a slur or an insult uh, towards people who I don't know, who like or go along with essentially like national socialism and fascism. And I definitely go along with the ideologies in terms of what they are as political ideologies that could be useful to us. I don't believe in democracy. I think it's a shit system. I think it never. I don't even believe that we were meant to be a democracy. I think a democracy is voting or whatever is fine for in groups. Like white men who own the land. Like as it was stated in the old days. Um, the other thing about me is that I don't get offended. Like if somebody insults me, I will stop and listen and say, okay, what's your perspective? Like, what do you state your case? And even if I don't agree with you or whatever, um, that doesn't mean I can't like respect you or be friends with you. And. So I let these things sort of control me. I don't let these things uh, segregate me. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we need unity in our movement, not division. I feel like we are a decentralized movement. There is no leader. Um, I like a lot of the people who I think are leaders in their own right, in their own way. Um, I know that sometimes things come out and we find out, oh, that guy was Jewish, or that guy's gay, or there's some psyop here that we got duped again. Like Bronze Age pervert is like a gay Jew or something. Or he's the son of Mossad or something like this. And I never really was a big follower of his anyway. Um, but I knew a lot of people that were, and when they found that out, they were pretty upset. Um, but you know, there's I do believe that there's a case to say that like the average white person today is not going to. They're not going to get it. They are totally, totally brainwashed. and like the World War II thing is it's played. There's nothing of value we can get out of that. So for you to identify with it just alienates whites or something. That that I understand is the argument, and I think within a limited scope that argument makes some sense. The thing is, you have to accept the fact that one, you're relinquishing the truth of your own history to the enemy by doing that, and two, that your people aren't sort of smart or mature enough to handle the truth. And I don't buy that, or rather I don't agree with that. So, but the thing is, I also don't disagree that, for most people, um they're not ready. They're just not ready. I mean, but they will be, though. You see, they weren't ready to find out that, like, 9/11 was an inside job. They weren't ready to find out that, the vax is some kind of global depopulation program. And I could go down the list of they weren't ready for blah 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 blah. They weren't ready to, XYZ. Our time is coming, and it's coming. And like I say, as long as the internet exists, we still have a chance to get the truth out there and take back our sovereignty. I also feel like our enemy is in front of us, not next to us. So don't fight your neighbor. Like, you can have your different ways or opinions of this, that cultures, yada yada, but work together somehow. Find some way to work together. Um, and I'm like probably the only guy in the dissident right that thinks like that, because like I've known a ton of different people in many many different spheres, and I would say that almost all of them don't do that, and have like terrible things to say about, this guy or that guy, and I just don't do that. I'm never gonna punch right. I'm never gonna, you know say or do anything that is against our people and our movement specifically. So, wow, that was quite a speech I just gave there. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Referring to stereotypes. Let's see. I didn't mention stereotypes. What white people having well-being would look like to being anything that serves him personally. He is. I saw a clip of him saying child porn should be legal. That's sickening. By using pretext saying, so Spencer literally said that. Please tell me that's not fucking real. That's demoralizing, like crazy. I wouldn't really call him as promoting white well-being, but more like promoting heresy to anti-whiteism. It is an insult, but no, towards people, but not towards people reading into things. Things you said on this stream was anti-white narrative, though. You'll have to clarify. Reading Pawns in the Game by William Guy Carr and watching Europa, The Last Battle, helped me to realize the truth. Thank you. This is what I needed to hear. Yes. Okay, I'm always okay with arguments so long as the standard of what wins remains white well-being. This is beautiful. Yeah, I mean, so Slots, would you say, like, I guess you're in the no white guilt camp, which is great. I think that's awesome. I really really love and admire Jason, no matter what he thinks of me. um, so here's where this my take is that I always say that it's a spectrum, that we are different points on a white identity political spectrum. I think that's the most clinical, objective truth of it, right? I mean, so is Nick Fuentes. So is I don't know, definitely not Richard Spencer anymore. You know, there's a bunch of people out there that we all know about, right? So um, some are more palatable than others. Some are more like, they have like, they're marketable, I guess, if you might say. Um, some are appear very radical. Um, I guess what I can agree with you though is this, like, you know, it's got to be towards our ends. It's got to be helping us. And I know that the argument is that the quote Ant Nats are not helping. That they're perpetuating this so-called Nazi stereotype. So that's, I've already made my point on that. It's like, if you believe that, then you're buying into a leftist controlled narrative that isn't historically true. It's just that it's against their ideological beliefs, which is communism. So, like, I don't, you cannot. Here's our problem: whites allow our enemies to lead the dance, and that is primarily dialectic. That is largely to do with what words you use to describe things, and what words cannot be said, and history. It's like, what's the phrase, like, you heard about fake news, wait till you hear about fake history. You see where I'm going with that? So, like, this is what's happening, and we have to take back our history. Without our history, who are we? What are we? If we are using leftist dialectic, we're still talking. They have control of the narrative. So long as we keep using their words and. Hmm. I like what you said about, like, whatever it is in the end, just so long as it's pro us, that it helps us. That's always the standard. That always has to be the standard. It's got to help us, right? And I mean, there's no fucking guidebook for this stuff. We're figuring it out as we go. And we have, like, our movement has some very, very intelligent people, and also some very moody people. Like, there's a shit ton of like misguided testosterone in our community, where people have a kind of, like, sort of a locker room banter type thing, where it's just toxic. And I think a lot, like, you know let's say, a coworker, a friend from school says, "Hey, I'm getting interested in the white positive sphere. Is there any websites or videos or anything that you can turn me on to and help me with my research? Like, give me the lay of the land kind of thing." And then, you know, you'd have to be like, well, there's a lot of infighting, and if they were to see all the infighting, they might think, this isn't gonna go anywhere. This isn't working. I don't want to be a part of this. So it's, I don't want to say bad marketing, but it from the outside it looks really immature, and that matters to me. I don't. This should not be a movement run by 20-year-olds. And God bless my 20-year-old friends, but let the elders lead. You know what I'm saying? If it's just like, how do I want to put this? Like, there's a lot of gatekeeping within our sphere. I had a really, really bad experience last year with a young guy that joined a group that I was in. And this guy really wasn't far off from high school. He's not in high school, but, you know, his mind was in high school, And he thought he thought he would get points with the guys if he could knock me down, and in the kind of way that in like a high school locker room or lunchroom, he would take the piss out of somebody, And at my age, I don't tolerate that shit. And I also was a high school teacher, so like, like I know how it goes. I know the whole deal. And I ended up leaving the group because he's a kid. He can't control himself. He can't control his mouth. He thinks he's right all the time. Like he's immature. He's immature. He doesn't know how to behave. Among adults. And I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want to make him like lose his standing in the group or something. In the years to come, he'll really mature into like a very bright person, a good writer. Just overall, he's going to help the movement, But at the moment, he's acting like an asshole, And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to stick around for this. I'm not going to stick around for this. So, the other guys in the group, I still keep in touch, talk to them occasionally here and there. But this is just a small lesson for all of us. Like, I think all of us should be behaving in this kind of way, where like treat this movement with a certain level of protocol in terms of getting along with each other. All right, so where are we now? A lot of cool conversation going on. Let's see what's going on. Reading pawns. Slut says, I'm always okay with arguments. Hyperborean Jim says, it's not a matter of our people not being smart enough. People use their subconscious, not their consciousness. This is a really, really deep topic right there. And definitely something I'm plugged into. Great insight. I think being offended would not be dishonoring. I care more about functionality. I'm with you. Slot says, I'm always against using slurs anti-whites use. I see your point. I was always pushing back on Jason when he'd use the word Nazi. Good. We don't need to dunk on our aggrieved for Vague's sympathies. This is the best stream at night, late at night. Really, that's nice for you to say. I would like it to be more. I should have you guys like on the stream and actually talk to you, so I don't have to stop drawing and we can just jam. That's just what we need to do. So we're gonna get there. Biospirit Tastes, welcome to the show. It's good to have you. He says, but I turned some vague white people when showing them Jason's offensive rant about ants. How old are you? Just curious. Going to guess 33 to 37 through voice physiognomy. I I never like age dox myself, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Biospirit says most ant gnats are internally gatekeeping, though. Okay, so that I need an answer for. I want to hear the answer. Like, please explain yourself, bio spiritual harmony. I want to know why you feel that way. What are they gatekeeping? So as far as the age thing, so I'm kind of like an amateur sociologist. Like I like to study the way people behave. And I think that a lot of it is just a survival technique that I need to know how people are going to behave predictably so that I can avoid having conflicts with them. You know what I'm saying? It's I don't think there's anything, you know, like evil or mischievous about that. What I have noticed though is that people do have very, very generation specific ideas, and it's not well phrased, but like if someone's in their 20s, then you know that you can talk and act a certain way, and that or not, depending on how old you are, you might feel intimidated because you're not up on whatever the music is or this or that, the lingo, whatever. If it's someone in their 30s, you might be like, if you're in your 30s, I mean, it all depends on how old you are too, right? Like, if I'm in my 20s, I'm talking to someone in their 30s, I think I'd be more careful about what I say. I wouldn't want them to dunk on me. Maybe I'm looking for mentorship, leadership, friendship, and it's good to be friends with people older than you because they're wiser than you. They have more experience than you. In the 40s, it might be like hard to relate to because maybe this person's got a family and a house and a job, and maybe if I'm 20, they wouldn't really even want to talk to me at all. If I'm 30, how are they gonna, probably not that much different. I don't know. But if you say you're younger than you are, you get the benefit of people thinking you're fresh and relevant and hip and cool or whatever. But you're also you have the not benefit of being thought of as young and inexperienced. And then if you say you're older than you are, you get the benefit of being, oh, he's wise and experienced. But he's a bit older, so he doesn't really relate to all these kind of popular things. So I figure it's just best not to say how old you are at all. Um, I don't know. I just found it interesting how people they do have like prejudgments, I guess. They want to know how old you are so they know how to act. Isn't that interesting? I don't know. I find that interesting. For me, it's about what are you saying? Like, what's the conversation about? Like, I've known people in their 20s that are as mature as anyone I've met, say, in their 40s. And I've met people in their 30s that have the maturity of a 12-year-old. It's all over the map. I feel like once you're an adult, you're an adult, and you just act like one. You know what I mean? And that's all that matters. So this has been Don's Philosophy on YouTube. Anyway, I want to see what the answer was about that thing. Okay, about how are ant gnats gatekeeping? Like, what are they gatekeeping? Who are they gatekeeping? Uh, I meant intentionally. Jews should have their own collective interest. All people normally do, except whites don't seem to. They should have numerical courage, as they clearly do. I completely understand. I'm 29. I'm trying to find. I don't really see like a clear answer to this topic of gatekeeping. I just want to understand what you're saying, because to me, there's nothing past where we are. Like, there's gatekeeping what? Like, there's no other truth beyond us that we would need to prevent people from knowing or going to. You see, Mark Rufio or Ben Shapiro or Jordan Peterson. All of those guys are gatekeepers to keep people away from us on the dissident right. And, like, you don't have to be, as far as I'm concerned, like, white well-being is the overall context. It's not about how much are you into fascism or national socialism or something. It's about how much are you into saving your people from extinction. Um, those other things are they're part of that whole package, but you don't kind of have to take it. It's, I guess, part of the buffet of being in the white positive movement. And I always refer to it as a white positive movement. Rather than like the National Socialist movement or the fascist movement. I don't do that. But like, just the word fascism is a perfect example. The Jews created Antifa, and it's in the name, Antifa, right? Anti-fascist. Everybody uses the word fascism now in place of the word totalitarian or authoritarian. And that, of course, means total government control. Now, we're living in that. We've been living in that, for quite a while. We don't, it's... So, like, for starters, that's, like, the first thing to notice is, like, we already live in that, and only it's called democracy, and then secondly, when you actually do some fucking historic research, you'll find out, okay, this is an Italian philosophy that turned into a political ideology, and then what's the difference between that, National Socialism, da, da, da. You can go down a massive rabbit hole, but it's just like any other political ideology. It has it's a history, it has a culture, it has a time and a place. Ultimately, what we just are is nationalists. We're I don't even refer to myself as a white nationalist. I'm an ethno-nationalist. I'll stop there. I don't want to get too down the rabbit hole, but let's check the comments here. I'm checking comments. They should have numerical. I says I completely understand. I'm 29. A tense time for a woman. I is female. Okay. A hard time to be open as a right winger as well. Big time. Well, God bless you. I love you. You're part of our family now, so you're home. You can relax. Kick your shoes off. Turn the TV on. Hyperborean Jim says, I don't like whenever I help old people do manual labor. They say, when I was their age, I could lift way more than that as I'm helping. Yeah, those darn old people. Slot says, that I open to going on a date. Okay. Welcome to the Donald Cut dating service. We got special guests. Okay, maybe I'll have a dating show. That's a whole new concept. Most Ant-Nats lie about Jason and call him a rapist. What the fuck? What the fuck? This is what I'm talking about. Like, we shouldn't be infighting. This is stupid, Come on. Like, this is what happens. Oh, you said that to me? Well, I'm going to say this about you. And then. Well, how fucking old are we? This is about our fucking future. Okay? It's not some stupid high school argument. Like, leave each other alone. This is the shit that pisses me off. I don't know. I can only state my point so many times. They also make threats, and there is no right or left. Just extinction. Um, I says you're sweet and bold. Da, 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 happy married. Da, da, da. Thanks. Yeah, guys. Okay, I'll let you guys have your conversation. Do You are right about Antifa history. Not saying anything wrong with pointing that out necessarily. I think it's odd trying to bond with the majority of people based on understanding. Um, this is a we're dealing with tough stuff, guys. I mean, this is not, like I said, this doesn't come with like an instruction manual. We're out here on our own figuring things out. Which is why we should try to help each other more. I just I'm just not for attacking our people in our movement. I don't go for that. So, oh man, you guys are really making my evening so much nicer. Um, I kind of sort of feel like I might switch to another page because, like, there's different, you know, there's inking and then there's talking and inking. So, like, some stuff requires pretty high level attention. Maybe we should take a little fun break and look at some comics. That could be neat. I want to show you this one. Um, I don't know how well you can see it. So. There's a guy named Ernie Colon who is not. I guess you guys wouldn't know who he is, but he's a guy that's been in comics for 100 years, and so whatever. There's a book that he wrote and illustrated, and as an artist, he was like, "This is the one book I was the most happy to do because I had 100% creative control. I wasn't, doing the Justice League or written by Joe Schmo and you got to have A, B, C, D, F, G, or whatever. He wrote and illustrated everything. So it allowed him to fully flex his creative, stylistic comic style. It sounded redundant, but it's really love it. It's strong. It's really strong work. I don't know. I wouldn't compare myself to him, but now that I look at it, I actually do see certain similarities. Uh, it's just something about the sensibility of the graphics. Kind of neat to check out. Um, I wrote a science fiction story that got accepted by Countercurrents, and that would be like super kick ass if I could do that someday. But problem with comics is it's so freaking time consuming. Like I just wish there was a way to do this faster. I was talking about that in a previous show about like I should figure out a way to put something out weekly because our culture and our movement, you know, I don't know, it just seems like something weekly would be so much better. But yeah, I don't know. I've already started this thing. I have to finish it. Even today, I've been thinking like, oh no, I want it to end this way. Well, that's not really the ending. Then there could be more. Like I got to be doing this thing for years. I had the idea to put the first issue out for free on my website. That people would have to go to the site and they can read it, but they can also click and write a review, and they can also click to download a PDF version, so they can actually have a digital copy just for like the first issue to, you know, and then perhaps second, third issue or whatever, I would like maybe publish some of it or something, and kind of try to figure out what I'm gonna do with it. Um, let's see what you guys are talking about up here. Probably talking about me behind my back. I think it's odd trying to bond with people. Yeah, I hear that. It's like trying to have an intelligent conversation with a dog rather than just bonding over expression and voice fluctuation. Hmm. Nice cover. American Zarathustra, not trying to be a hypocrite, but how else to say it? People are overestimated. They are just people, not geniuses. That's kind of a good point, dude. Yeah. Blonde haired, blue eyed protagonist that is masculine and not idiotic, presumably. Good luck finding that anywhere regularly. Yeah, this book was published probably in 80s or something like that. Let's take a peek. It's in really good condition. Give me a date. 1984. Ah, that's perfect year for a dystopian science fiction graphic novel. Um, but yeah, you made a good point there. Like people are people, right? Like we're fallible. We're not perfect, and the internet itself lends itself to creating the illusion of like you're just showing the best part of yourself or a style of yourself or it's just you don't have to show all the warts and pimples and like how fat you are, how old you are, whatever your problems are. You can't nobody can see that, and it's not until you get into some pretty heavy conversation that people start kind of falling apart in some way or another. And um, the thing to do though is to keep mental equanimity, to keep calm. Um, Let people insult you. Let them say dumb shit. Let them just play out their role in their drama, and you just sit back and stay calm and wish them well. And you either engage or you don't. It's like, well, I don't think we can come to an agreement on anything. I wish you the best. And I'll tell you, when you can behave like an adult, it actually shocks people, and they especially the people that are watching, because I've been in countless like fights on the internet, so to speak, where I know the person I'm arguing with doesn't agree with me, and I'm not going to change their mind. That's not why I'm there. I'm there for everybody else to watch. Haha. So, like, they're watching how's Donald going to get through this? What's he going to say? What's his response now? And it's a show for them. But a show that is white pilling or red pilling. It's not like, haha, look how I own this libtard or something. Like that's just, maybe in 2016 that was cool, but not now. Anyway. All right. Most people aren't thick-skinned like we are. That's another good point. All right. Let's see where we're going. I'm going to put something on screen for you to look at here. Instead of just my desk. How about that? Oh, that's pretty cool. So let's read some comments. I think so many people experience resentment towards blonde blue combo traits, including myself sometimes. They'll be hypercritical of them. Yeah, that brings up an interesting topic, the whole idea about envy. I think that other races envy us. You know, most people aren't thick skinned, yeah. Well, guys, this show has gone on for 194 minutes, and that is freaking long for me. So I think I'm gonna, unless you guys have any comments or questions, real quick, I'll read them real quick. I don't want to let the vagues just play out their stupidity for their own sake and ours. I get upset the way a parent gets upset when the child puts themselves. This is our job. They are our children. People who are not woken up racially, they're our children in a way. We have to guide them and help them and be patient. In danger as an outcome of disobeying their parents. Yeah. All right. Well, gang, I think I will wrap it up here. I thank you so much for the awesome conversation, for the awesome company. I'm so glad that you liked the show and that you're here with me. Please share in your networks and bring your friends and all that good stuff. So God bless you. Love you all. Have yourselves a good evening, and we'll see you soon.